So I'm going to jump into two things. The first one is the mind map that I put together for my goals. And then also this journal that I started. And I think I will start with this. This is a Cocoa Daisy, simple Daisy notebook. And I just started subscribing to Cocoa Daisy again. I used to subscribe like a year ago all the time because I really loved all the deco, and I have always wanted to take one of her simple notebooks and just kind of junk journal it, if you will, creative journal, whatever you want to talk about. And I've never done it because I never could think of what to put in it. And so I decided, I don't care, I'm going to do this. And I sat down one afternoon. I think it just took me a couple hours to kind of throw this together, and then have been slowly, adding to it, of course. But I just thought, I'm going to do this. I don't know how it's going to, what I'm going to put into it, how it's going to formulate itself, but I'm just going to allow it to happen. And so I did. And I took the simple Daisy notebook, I took it apart and I added in some additional pages that you'll see. And it's starting to come together a little bit. And so, as I do with most of my new journals or notebooks, I always put what my intentions are for it. And so, again, this is something I've always wanted to do, and I finally did it. And so my plan is to take some of the devotional materials that I've been into, and some thoughts and wisdom that I thought would be really great for a new year. And that way you could pick up this journal every new year, maybe like between Christmas and New Year, or, for the month of January, you could pick this up and just have a lot of wisdom and thoughts about how to approach a new year, potentially how to build out your goals and align them with God. And so that's what I'm doing with this. And I have to just tell you that with me being retired and having children that are out of the house and, living their own lives, carving that out, doing a good job of that, it really has freed me up to do a lot of these creative things, and a lot of the goals, if you will. When I go to the mind map of that, you'll see that, it's largely because I'm retired that I'm able to do all of that. And what a fortunate thing to be able to do. I've really been blessed. All right, so that's kind of the purpose and how I've laid that out. Let me just kind of go through it a little bit. And so the devotional that I have been in is, let's see, New Morning Mercies. Let me pull it up on my Kindle here. By Paul David Tripp, New Morning Mercies. So it's a daily, and I had mentioned this before, that I wasn't sure if I was going to do this or not, but I got to tell you, I started doing it the end of December, adding that into my daily routine in the mornings, and I've just really enjoyed it. So yeah, I think I'm definitely going to keep using his devotional every morning. So, January 1st he's talking about the Christian life is not about us. It's about God, his plan, his kingdom, his glory. And we are created to live for him. So how do you express this, right? So the Bible verse was, so whether you eat or drink or whatever you do all for the glory of God. That's probably one I need to memorize. And a couple months ago, it was in my in-person Bible study that I was reading in our book that we were studying, that yes, that is your purpose in life. That is what you should be doing. It is like the only thing you should be doing is everything that you do should be to glorify him. And I'd never thought of it that way. I mean, yes, crazy, right? How have I been alive this long and a Christian this long, and I just never thought of it that way? So for my goals, I definitely this year, I want to shape them so that, yes, I'm doing it all for the glory of God. So you'll see that. And I think this particular scripture is interesting. They're talking about eat or drink. So obviously, I think what Paul means here is, the mundane of the daily living. It's just just even something as simple and something probably we don't think a whole lot about, of eating and drinking. Yes, even that is to be done for the glory of God. And I also have to tell you that as I have struggled with my weight in the past, I've struggled with food. And so for me, even taking this literal, what you eat and drink, but especially this, for me, it's this last year, it was something that I started with. It was something that I started doing in obedience, and really taking a lot of heart in honoring honoring my body with foods and drinks that bless it rather than hurt it. And so, for me, as I'm putting all of this together, and I'll speak to the health journey, the weight loss journey from this last year. I'll speak to that when I get to the mind map. But for me, it's like, what could this lead to next? If I am able to literally take what I eat and what I drink and be obedient about that and do it for the glory of God, then yeah, wow, what could be next? So anyway, I'll continue to expand on that a little bit more. And then I think the next day, the devotional was also really good, so I had to put it in here too. And so it's I think the things that we're chasing all the time, we're always chasing something. And I think that's even part of why we build goals, is because we're trying to chase something that we feel like we should have, we don't have, society tells us we need to be or do. And so, there's a quest to just to go for it and to try to be something that we're currently not. And that's not a bad thing necessarily, but this helped couch that, I think, in a way that really helped me. And so it spoke to, your rest is not to be found in figuring out your life, but in trusting the one who has already figured it out for your good and his glory. There it came up again. And so again, the quest is not to understand it all. This is not your goal. God already has done that. There is one who knows. And so the quest is to seek him first in all things, and then they will be added unto you, right? So here's a great, I thought, well, seek you first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added unto you, is a great scripture, of course. But here's another nice one. For God alone, O my soul, wait in silence, for my hope is from him. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I shall not be shaken. In 2025, I used this, I shall not be shaken. And then there's another one in Psalms. It's really more specific to Israel, that Israel will not be shaken, and it's she will not be shaken. Both of those were my 2025 verses, in terms of I'm done. I am done being on the roller coaster. I'm done stressing about every little thing. I am done letting Satan bring catastrophes or circumstances into my life and I just fall all apart. It's like, nope, I am standing strong. I am not going to be shaken. I'm going to hold strong. And so I just loved this because it tied in 2025 with where I'm headed in 2026. So what a great verse. So I guess, the main point is seeking him. God loves you and rules what you don't understand with your good in mind. We just have to seek him first. I just love that. Okay, keep going. More deco, nothing on this, just a fun deco page. I think this is day 3 of that New Morning Mercies. I'm not sure. I kind of lost track, but again, I'll let you know when I'm not using that devotional. This one is talking about the Bible simply it doesn't permit you to live for the moment. And so I think that's also really important as you're thinking about goals. It does not give you the room to shrink your thoughts and your desires, your words, your actions down to living for the needs and the wants of this little moment in time, that we're meant to live with eternity in view. We're meant to allow God to set that for us, right? The little things, he's got all of that under control. And so we're meant to look at the big picture and then obviously remain in peace and in rest as a result of that. So this is not all that there is, the daily mundane, the chores, the things that you've got to do, like them or not. We have to realize that we don't live for the treasures of the moment in this world. We don't live in the pain of the moment either, if you happen to have some of that. And I do, and the pain is my sciatica right now. So to me, that pain was a little bit more literal. But if God has already granted you a place in eternity, then he has granted you the grace to get through all that life gives, all the challenges and the hurts. And he does so that you can live with eternity in mind. So remember, your emotions are fleeting and they're certainly not reliable. And you shouldn't be living by your emotions. You should be living with this eternity in view. So again, I thought these were wonderful words as you think about how to progress in your new year. One of the ladies in my Bible study, and this is on my online BSF online study, there's several of us in that group that have unsaved children. And so I just wrote this down as she had reminded us of this promise and suggested a way to pray for our children. And I just loved that. I have some other verses that I pray over my children, and not just, their salvation, but God's will in their life and specific things that I know that they're struggling with and just their futures. And so I love being able to capture some Bible verses that help us with those promises, and I can pray those verses directly for them. All right, so which one's this? I don't remember what day it is, but this is Paul David Tripp. And so he's talking about there's no mystery with God. He's never surprised, right? The world could be falling apart and maybe, many of you could say that it is falling apart, right? But he never wonders how he's going to deal with these things. He knows. And so this Bible verse is really nice. He knows what is in the darkness, and the light dwells within him. So God is in each and every moment of darkness because he promises he will never leave you. He is in complete control of all that feels mysterious to us, the whys. And, we are always going to be asking why, and yet God's got a handle on all that. So as Paul David Tripp writes, when God looks at what I think is darkness, he sees light. He holds me and my mysteries in his gracious hands, and because he does, I can find and be at rest, at peace. And I got to tell you, with this sciatic issue that I'm dealing with, I'm pretty sure I have a bulging disc. I have a doctor's appointment coming up in a couple of weeks. You know how long it takes to get into a doctor. But anyway, a lot of pain over the whole month of December, and it's getting a little bit better, and so I appreciate that. But you know how when you are in such pain, you can't sleep, I can't sit. It's some days are a little bit unbearable, and it feels dark. It feels like moments of darkness, and yet the light is within him. I can be at rest that this is going to be healed, and that I don't have to be like, well, when? Well, and I don't even have to be thinking that it's a doctor that's going to heal me. It's God that's going to heal me, and I know that. And I just want to know what I'm dealing with. I want to make sure I'm, doing the right things rehab wise, and doing everything I can to make sure I stay on the right track. But that really helped me this week with that. But it also helps with just as you're thinking about goals and where your life is going and the things that you're trying to, the widgets you're trying to produce, the things you're trying to achieve is and especially, when things in the world seem so crazy, these are all mysteries. We don't understand it, but yet I can be at rest, and that's really been helpful, I think. All right, and this, both of these are 2 different days, but again, both of these are from Paul David Tripp. And this again is another one about being at rest, and in particular, talking about some freedom. So again, as you're thinking about goals, why are you trying to set these goals? You're thinking about what you want, what you need, because you're not satisfied, because you want something different. And there's nothing wrong with that. As an example, losing the weight that I did this last year, it was because I wasn't content, I wasn't satisfied. And I also felt like God told me, hey, you need to focus on your health. You need to get yourself to a better place. And I want you to do this, and you need to be obedient and get into some discipline. And I did. So there's nothing wrong with not being satisfied and wanting to make some changes. But I think many of us are chasing things that are maybe not good for us, or maybe are diverting us into something that, is great, but not what God had intended, not where He wants you to spend your time and your energy. It's about not necessarily allowing your flesh to crave that next big thing. And it's asking yourself the question of, are you looking horizontally? What can only be found vertically? Wow, what a profound statement. I think I've heard that somewhere else before, but it was really nice to have that in this devotion again, because we are all motivated. We're all built this way to motivated by our wants, our needs, our feelings, and we kind of tend to be scorekeepers, right? And we compare ourselves to others. It's a life of discontentment and envy, quite honestly, if we allow ourselves to be that way 100% of the time. And so, looking to the creation, God's creation, not to God, but if we're looking at God's creation for life and for hope and peace and rest and contentment, our identity, our meaning, our purpose, our inner peace, and our motivation, that's the wrong place to be looking for that. I read somewhere, I don't remember where it was, maybe it was Paul David Tripp and something else, but where, we tend to worship His creation instead of worshiping the Creator. And yeah, that's a big problem. That's definitely something to be thinking about. So the problem is that nothing can give you these things in creation, what I just listed here. There's nothing that's going to give you that. Creation was never designed to satisfy your heart. Creation can't give you what only God can give. I mean, yes, how profound. So when you're satisfied with God, He's the giver, because you have found in Him the life that you were looking for. You are free from this, major quest to find satisfaction in worldly things and to feed your emotions and your fleshly desires. So your heart will only rest when it has found that rest in Him, and God's grace gives you this. So it can be yours. I just really loved this. And so again, it's not about wanting to change things that you're not satisfied with in your life. Those are good things. God wants you to improve on things. He wants you to be better every day and more holy every day. He wants you to pursue holiness. So there's a lot there. He constantly is evolving and changing us. But I think it's just this question of what are we doing with that? Are we looking horizontally, or are we looking vertically? And to definitely ask ourselves that question. And so it really rolled into this really nicely. And this is from back in December. So I think we just don't fully comprehend what a big deal it is to have God living in us as Christians. And in particular, you can read through the rest of this, but this transforming work that God is doing in us is a work of grace, and it is a process, and it's the little moments and the little changes. It's that daily transforming that God is doing in us if we allow him to do that. And so we need to let God rule in these moments and in the mundane, and recreate in us and change us from within. And I love that, and definitely helpful as you think about all your goals and things. All right, so that's the last entry that I had, but I just will quickly show you what else I've got in this and hope to fill it up. Our hope is not in the new year, but in the one who makes all things new. So you can see I have quite a few pages that will be a pleasure to fill up. And that's the end. So like I said, I took this apart and added in some more pages, and then later I sewed it together with some waxed thread, the really thick waxed thread that I had, so that it makes this really wonderful notebook, and I'm really enjoying that. Okay, back to goals. I did a mind map of my goals and was really focused on, again, because I'm retired, so there's a lot of things that I don't have to do for my children or for my family, and my husband's a pretty easy keeper as well. And so my goals for this year, again, to focus on that all that I do to glorify God. I want to pursue obedience, the things that I feel like he is directing me to do. I want to be obedient to that. And I'm pursuing holiness. That's a book that I brought it over. I'm going to speak to this in another video, but this really spoke to me, and I just want to share what I've learned. And so I'm going to take some of the things I learned in that book and bring that forward into my goals. I want to be fruitful. I want to be using my time well. I don't want to be sitting on the couch with social media and just, an hour goes by. I want to be more fruitful and purposeful about what I do. I want to be an ambassador for God. And I think that's really important to continue to remember that we really are ambassadors for God. And how does that look? And I said purposeful. Yeah, I did spell that right. It just looks funny, I think. Anyway, but one note about goals. I mean, as I look at goals, maybe these are goals, but maybe these should be thought more of as focus points and just how I'm going to fill my days. That's really what I'm after. And so there's a bunch of things here that I do hope will help me fill my days now that I'm retired and realize that I have a lot of time on my hands. So I also have a theme for 2026. And as this last year was on my health, fitness, weight loss journey, every day I worked out. I mean, I had a regimen, and every day I'd stick to it. And honestly, as I was doing it, there are some times where you're, especially the lifting weights stuff in the routine that I would be in, you'd be like, part of the way into that routine, and you'd be like, oh, could I find a way to cut this short? I could cut this short, right? But no, I'm going to stay in obedience. This is what it means by being obedient. And so each time that would bring me back of, hey, no, I was told very clearly that I need to get my health back in shape. And as such, yes, I'm going to be obedient about it. And so as I lost the weight and as I started to muscle up, and I really did muscle up, I've never been this thin before, and I don't believe I've ever been this muscled before. It's nice to be toned. And I would just tell my husband, I was like, wow, I've never been this person before. And we would just laugh about that. And yet there's so many places in my life this last year in 2025 where you could say that. I've never been in a Bible study before, and now I'm in two. I haven't been back to church for probably, close to 20 years. And so I'm doing that. I'm doing this YouTube thing. I've purchased a electronic piano. I used to play piano in high school and in college. So I'm going to relearn all these keys and chords. I'm going to get back into piano, and I'm really excited about that. It's another hobby I'm adding in, but I think it'll be really good for my brain too, as I'm older now and need some of that kind of thing to help with brain function and keeping it healthy and strong. So I woke up one morning and like, this is a really good theme, is to continue each day becoming someone I've never been before. And I think that's great. It motivates me. It's a fun thing to think about, stretching those boundaries, being someone I've never been before. And it also means in my spiritual walk and the things that I'm learning, continuing to study and learn in the Bible. I'm learning things I've never known before, or maybe I did know them, but it's dusted off and I've learned it in a new way, and it's more important to me now than ever. I've never built a Bible commentary before, right? I've never read some of the books that are on my list before, and so, the wiser and just the more work that I do in these areas is going to definitely further me spiritually. And I've never, been this spiritually strong before. So I love that. Getting back to piano. Yeah, I used to do that back then. And yet I do hope to get back to where I used to be, but I hope to also further that. So that's definitely a goal there. My dog her name is Hope, and we definitely need to work on healing on a leash. Where we live and where we go for a walk, we live on a ranch, and so we don't need to worry about being on a leash all the time when we go for our walks. And we go for walks probably on average twice a day. And so when we do end up in a place where she's got to be on a leash, yeah, I just need to work on that. And she does okay, but I want it to be really good. So that's definitely a goal. What else? Before I talk about this, hobbies, journaling, pens, my inks, my journals. Yes, I'm going to continue to enjoy all those things and use them to help glorify God. As you can see, this hobby, this, beautiful ability to create something that is enjoyable and that I love is also a way to glorify God with the things that I'm learning and the ability to share it with you and carry it forward, hopefully, again, to be able to pick this up every year and enjoy the bits of wisdom in here will be really, really fun. So yes, I'm going to continue all of these things and to do them for the glory of God. The church that I'm in, the Bible study that I'm in, the fellowship that is a part of that, yes, I really feel like they're pushing my boundaries, for being such a recluse over the last 10 years. They really are pushing my social boundaries, which is good, and potentially building some really wonderful friendships and this community that I can be part of. I feel so fortunate. So definitely, that's, again, being someone I've never been before, but it's also to glorify God. It's being in obedience, because I really do feel like God told me, you need to be pursuing this. You need to get social again, and you need to get yourself out there. So here I am. YouTube, this is crazy. I wouldn't do this if it were up to me. I just wouldn't. So here I am. I'm doing it to glorify God. And so this is definitely something I've never been before, but definitely got some goals here of focusing on the Bible commentary and the journals as tools, and commenting on other people that I do follow to help support them. So I'm definitely going to be working on that. My voice, there's a lot of rehab that I'm still doing. You guys have heard me talk about how I do have a voice condition, and the rehab is to use it more. If I don't use it, I'm going to lose it. And so the strength and volume of that voice and being able to do that, I think over the long term is going to help me, obviously, because I don't want to lose my voice. I don't want to be hoarse. I don't want to be in pain after a day of talking. I want to be where I can freely sing, freely talk, and not have to conserve that voice because I'm going to pay for it later. So that's definitely there. And then, you know, I've got some personal goals here too. And certainly my fitness journey and my diet, I definitely want to continue to work on. Right now, I've got this sciatic issue and I've had some downtime as a result of that, trying to get that, I think, again, a bulging disc, getting it healed, but eventually to get back into, and honestly, walking's like really helps it. So we definitely have been getting back into it took me a while to figure it out, but yeah, back into 10,000 steps a day because it helps and I feel better afterwards. So I want to keep working on getting more pull-ups. Was prior to the holidays, prior to this sciatic issue, was able to do 2 pull-ups, and so that's a goal. More muscle tone. I want to do some mobility training. I want to maintain the weight loss, and I want to age. Ultimately, I just want to age gracefully. I want to be able to be in the best position I can be for this last third of my life. You know, why not set yourself up for being as healthy as you can be to go into that, and then whatever happens, happens. My diet, I definitely want to stay focused on 30 to 40% protein, lower on the carbs. I feel really good when I do that. And so I want to continue doing that. And I don't drink enough water. Who does? I don't, yeah, I guess there are people that are really good at that. I'm just not. Definitely need to do that as well. So that's kind of a rundown of the goals, how I got there, and what I wanted to share. And for what it's worth, I hope it's helpful. And it's just nice to be able to have a group to share this with, and hopefully get some feedback going and some dialogue going in the comments of how are you doing with your goal setting? Are you thinking about them in a certain way this year? And if so, how? And would love to have you all just visit in the comments about all of that and how that's going for you. So with that, I will close this video, and I will see you on the next one, which I hope will be to look at this. So I appreciate your likes. I appreciate the subscriptions. Thank you for all of those, and definitely continue doing so. And I'll look forward to hearing from you in the comments. Thanks all.